यानी आपके जो है वो क्या कहते हैं, मुबारक कदम जहाँ पड़ते हैं वो कंपनी जो है वो फ्लरिश कर जाती है माशाल्लाह।
Mashallah, हाँ जी. So I go to a lot of pitch events. I think last 3 weeks ago we were at, and there were really good feedback and couple of really great presentation, but they did not cover their team. You're building a startup that requires capital, and you're not raising it, and you're doing bootstrap. What it means is that you will go slow. You'll go very slow, and in this day and age, somebody else will be way ahead of you in a jiffy, right? So it's a race, right? So if you are slow, somebody else will go ahead of you. The best is hiring people smarter than you, because nobody knows everything. So you cannot be the best of sales, best of R&D,
Yeah,
best of, right? You should find the best
you need to be
talent.
wiser than all. Yeah,
Yeah,
they are
you
smarter
should
than you,
be
but you are wiser than them.
wiser than. Yeah, so decision making is where you come, the vision, the decision making, the judgment calls, that's where you come in, right? If you are the founder, and right. I think the way you should think about is that funding, whether it's early stage, seed, series A, it's a means to an end. It's not an end. We have a thing called, in the TechCon, we will have called playground. It will have startup innovation pitching event. So we will select 8 startups to pitch. So it's anybody can apply on that website,
Perfect.
and you will go through the selection process criteria. As long as you meet that, the location is no more material in this day and age, frankly.
Yeah.
So even if you are an amazing Pakistani company, most of the investors will not invest, because unless you're incorporated in Delaware, or you're a US, just out because of the um, uh, kind of like a safety of the investments perspective, and the rights of the investors and all that. So
Yeah.
you're the key founders, preferably most of the investors prefer um, co-founders. So it's not one person, but at least at least 2 or more,
Yeah.
and complementary co-founders, right? So one can be a quantitative guy who's a builder, and then the other guy is a seller, right?
Seller.
Who's
Yeah.
and they, with the magic combination, right? So one builds and sell. So
Yeah.
then that would be the great combination.
अस्सलामु अलैकुम गाइस एंड वेलकम टू अनदर एक्साइटिंग एपिसोड ऑफ यूथ ऑन द राइज। उम्मीद है आप सब लोग खैरियत से होंगे। मैं हूं आपका होस्ट उमर चौधरी, और आज हम लोग जो टॉपिक लेकर आए हैं वो है हाउ टू बिल्ड अ सक्सेसफुल स्टार्टअप। आगे चलने से पहले हमेशा की तरह आपको रिमाइंड कराता चलूँ कि डोंट फॉरगेट टू सब्सक्राइब टू अवर यूट्यूब चैनल, एंड ऑल्सो डोंट फॉरगेट टू साइन अप टू dicecamp.com, which is your ultimate upskilling and job hunting platform. So guys, किसी भी स्टार्टअप को सक्सेसफुली स्टार्ट करने के लिए और सक्सेसफुल बनाने के लिए 3 चीज़ें मद्देनजर रखना बहुत ज़रूरी है। फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल, यू नीड टू स्टार्ट विद अ गुड टीम। Secondly, you need to actually build what your customers need and willing to pay. Thirdly, you need to spend as low as possible. So आप अगर अपना स्टार्टअप शुरू कर चुके हैं या करने वाले हैं तो आप देखेंगे कि आपके इर्द गिर्द बहुत सारे ऐसे लोग होंगे जो मुफ्त मशवरा आपको बहुत सारा देंगे, और ऐसे लोग भी होंगे जिन्होंने आज तक कभी स्टार्टअप वर्ल्ड का मजा चखा ही नहीं, और वो आपको ऐसे ऐसे एक्सपर्ट ओपिनियंस देंगे कि आप हैरान हो जाएंगे और आपको बड़ा सच लगेगा, क्योंकि उनका कॉन्फिडेंस लेवल इतना हाई होगा। सो मेरा मशवरा आपको ये है कि आप ऐसे मशवरों से परहेज करें और सीखें उन लोगों से जो कि एक्चुअल एंटरप्रेन्योर्स हैं। तो आज इसीलिए हम लोग एक सीनियर सिलिकॉन वैली बेस्ड एग्जीक्यूटिव और एंटरप्रेन्योर को लेकर आए हैं, और उनसे ही सारे मसलों के हल पूछेंगे और मशवरा करेंगे कि कौन कौन सी गलतियां हैं जिनको अवॉइड किया जा सकता है, और किस तरह से शॉर्टेस्ट पाथ के थ्रू सक्सेसफुली अपने स्टार्टअप को एक पीक पर लेके जाया जा सकता है। सो आवर गेस्ट टुडे इज अ सिलिकॉन वैली बेस्ड एग्जीक्यूटिव, एंटरप्रेन्योर, CTO and an angel investor. Please welcome Faisal Mushtaq. Assalamu alaikum, Faisal bhai.
Walaikum salam, Umar. Glad to be on the show.
Thank you for coming to the show, actually, and I'm really honored. How's Ramzan going, Faisal bhai?
Ramzan, mashallah, is going well. I'm an early morning person, so for me, it's working out well, and a lot of time to work, because you're not worrying about food most of the time. So, and you can prayers and meditate. So it's very good.
Mashallah.
I think, mashallah, going
That's
well.
great.
And
Faisal
then
bhai,
Tarawih,
मेरा
I think that's
हमेशा
my favorite part.
Oh, that's good. Glad to know.
Yeah.
So, मेरा हमेशा अपने गेस्ट से एक जो पैक्ट सवाल होता है वो यही होता है कि उनकी ज़बान से सुनने का एक मज़ा ही कुछ और होता है कि यार, टेल अस अबाउट योर की माइलस्टोन्स, योर सक्सेसेस, एंड वे यू आर एट द मोमेंट माशाल्लाह। सो कैसे वो पूरा जर्नी तय किया? उसके बारे में प्लीज
Uh,
बताएं।
def- Definitely. I'm more than happy to share. So, Assalamu alaikum everyone. Ramzan Mubarak. So, again, my name is Faisal Mushtaq. I'm based in San Diego, California, and been there for around 30 plus years. So, my journey, I think, started in Pakistan, Karachi. I went to school there. I did my undergrad there, NET University से a while back. उसके बाद that was a big decision. I think ज़िंदगी में आपके जो decision आते हैं, the first था कि what do you want to be? So I knew I was good at quantitative maths, physics, loved it. So I knew and building things. So that became very intuitive to me. So that path, so NED obviously helped. It's a great institution, and what we learned at NED was to do a lot more with very little, which is a typical mantra for a startup. So I don't know how it is right now, but I'm talking 30 years back, limited resources, labs, and you're trying to compete. You're reading the technology that's state of the art, and you're trying to be at par with all institutions in the world. So वो जो सेंस था कि कोई मसला नहीं है, कराची में है या एक लैब नहीं है तो विल फिगर इट आउट, एंड दैट पार्ट इज़ अ वेरी स्टार्टअप माइंडसेट. तो हम लोग उससे गुजरे, वी वेंट थ्रू दैट ग्राइंड. फिर उसके बाद वर्क फॉर अ ईयर देयर. द नेक्स्ट माइलस्टोन वाज टू डू माय एडवांस स्टडी. सो यूएस आया, परड्यू, and then after that ended up in Silicon Valley, in a company at that time was one of the hottest company, Cisco के नाम से. It was building, internet boom was going on, internet was growing like crazy. So we were very fortunate enough कि I ended up in that organization. So वहाँ पे also, when you're in a big company, typically you really work on many things. Things are very slow. That's the mindset. Luckily, I ended up in a group in Cisco, which came through a startup acquisition. So that team was just focused on delivering high quality customer products. And I was fortunate enough right out of college to learn those principles from them: how to innovate faster, with how to understand the customer needs, and how to launch products. So I was there for almost a decade, and we, I think, launched around 6 different products. Several were multi-billion-dollar product families that we launched. So that was a great learning experience, and the principles, and I still feel that a lot of early development as a profession that happened was from Cisco. उसके बाद, I think your question was the journey. So there was a milestone. So the first fork in the road was coming to US. First was the profession choice. The second one was coming to US, and then starting my career. The third fork in the road was that I decided that I want to go to startups and build something, and that ambition, change the world, small team. So I was fortunate enough that after leaving Cisco, I was part of 3 different startups. Where we built products, we launched products, we generated revenue, and all 3 went through acquisition. They were acquired by a larger company.
Brilliant.
The first startup was really grounds up, like few guys sitting in a room and an idea, and building from there and taking it all the way. So that was a different experience. Startup also, I think there are, sometimes you build one, sometimes you take one that's there and really scale it up and make sure that it becomes the next level, potential. So in the first startup, I had I was fortunate enough to go through that grind. And I remember when we said that we're going to build this product, and I said there were 5 people, I think there were 6 maybe. And even in Cisco, my team was N times larger than this, and I was doing just one function in a product. So I was like, initially, can small team really do this? And that self-belief, I think, when you started doing it, and you realize that a small team can do miracles, and especially in these days with the tools that are available. So that was the first one, and then the other 2, it was a different role where there were companies that had built like I'll say version 0.1 product, which was not scalable, not mature, team was not gelling, the culture was not there, and how do you come and help as a I was the CTO slash VP of engineering to build that and launch products. And all these were B2B products. So our target customers were either enterprises or telcos, which has a much higher bar. Telcos have the really high bar of availability, of reliability, of scalability, security. So having those experiences really helped. One thing was common so far till this point in my career, that my essence is all technology, which I'll say end-to-end software, hardware, embedded, AI, cloud, you name it. But it's not the same thing every time. So Cisco was pure organic networking. The first startup was wireless, 4G wireless, WiMAX LTE. The second startup was video compression, and the third startup was private cloud. Each was different, so it wasn't like I'm doing the same thing. So different challenges, and that's where I think you push yourself, you take yourself out of your comfort zone. There different philosophy. Some people like to stay in that domain for decades and just do the same different pieces of the same thing. For me, I like to learn something and then take it to do the next challenge. But it has to be complementary. It's not completely different. It's the same theme, but it's very different. After that, after that acquisition, the third one, I joined a consulting company, and I was head of cloud there. That was also acquired, interestingly, but there it was a different challenge. There I was talking to Fortune 500 companies, Fortune 50 companies, and they were trying to do what's called digital transformation. They had the systems that they built 20 years ago, and they are really worried about this new, more agile competitors coming in. So how do you transform that? So it was like, you're talking to a CTO of $100 billion company, and he's struggling, and you are giving advice and you're building solutions for them. That was an amazing experience, and that's again very different. And then finally, my last company that I was in is in consumer space. So that was an intentional decision, that health, wellness, consumer, sleep. Again, I've never worked in that domain, and it was direct consumer offering where millions of people are using the product. So again, this journey, I think it's continuing. Hopefully we'll have many more steps. But again, it's just the key point is, if you take the key messaging, one is that challenge yourself always. Don't be afraid of taking challenges, and then always build your career is like a journey. So you build those experiences and tools that you can keep using them. So the more tools you have, the better product you can build. So keep accumulating those tools throughout your journey in your life and your career. And so I think that pretty much 30 plus years in maybe 5 minutes.
Mashallah, that's impressive. That's impressive. So the gist of it is कि सिस्को के बाद आप जिस कंपनी में गए वो एक्वायर हो गई, चाहे वो आपकी अपनी हो या वो जहाँ पे आप काम कर रहे हो. So your current
acquiring is not always a good thing, but I think what I'm saying is that, but your comment is accurate. Yeah.
That's यानी आपके जो है वो क्या कहते हैं, मुबारक कदम जहाँ पड़ते हैं वो कंपनी जो है वो फ्लरिश कर जाती है, माशाल्लाह.
माशाल्लाह, हाँ जी.
That's very good. That's very good. So फैसल भाई, आपने TechCon SoCal का जिक्र नहीं किया, उसके बारे में भी बताएं. वो भी एक आपका बहुत ज़बरदस्त इनिशिएटिव है.
Definitely. So I think जैसे आपने introduction में you introduced me, so I have 4 different aspects of my life, right? So the first one is the entrepreneurial aspect, where I've been part of multiple startups from inception. Sometimes it was more about transformation and scaling, coming in to do that and maturing the startup. So that experience, I think, is one area. The other one is technology executive, whether it's Cisco, whether it's other companies that I've been in. So this journey is about building and scaling multi-billion-dollar company as a CXO role. So that's the second part. The third part is angel investor, I think, which is again very important because so I'm part of multiple angel groups. We do diligence on startups. We invest as a team, and that helps to see the new disruptive technologies coming in. So you get a front row seat at getting to see all really smart entrepreneurs and smart startups, and get to see what are the paradigm changes are coming in, and a lot of learning, but also a lot of you bring experience that you can impart upon that. So I think I'm also actively involved there, and that's also. And then the fourth role, which I think you are now touching upon, is about community mentorship and helping entrepreneurs. So in that ecosystem, I founded an organization called TechCon Socal 5+ years ago. It does multiple things, and one of the things it does a large thought leadership conference every year. So this year in June, inshallah, in San Diego, we are doing a conference. Typically, it's a full-day event where we invite sometimes up to 100 speakers. They're the leading entrepreneurs, the leading investors, and leading CEOs of companies for different sessions. They share their knowledge. They interact with the audience, which is a lot of entrepreneurs, students, a lot of tech executives, investors, potential investors. So it's a great forum where you bring smart people together, and that's my passion also, because when you bring smart people together, a lot of connections are made. You can a lot of symbiotic relationships are established, but also you learn from each other, right? So say an entrepreneur is trying to raise some money, and then he's listening to another guy, maybe his age, and he's sharing that he lays, say, $15 million and he's scaling his company and how he's doing it. That's just a learning you won't get anywhere. No book or no academia will teach you that experience. The real experience that you learn through your life journey, through different challenges that come and how you face them, the different accomplishments that you achieve, that's, I'll say, gold, right? So that part, I think, is what we are trying to enable for our audiences to do that. So highly encourage that if you can. It's an in-person event. You can go to techconsocal.com. Maybe, Umer, you can send out the link. It's an amazing event, I think, and you'll see a lot of really great speakers, a lot of great discussions about AI, about digital health, about investments, and from angel to Series A and Series B. So really great. Looking forward to it, and I think really excited about it.
Yeah, very much looking forward to it. So I think there's a good chance for Pakistani startups as well, जो funding raise करना चाह रहे हैं, तो so if they become part of this conference, so there's a good chance for them and good opportunities might open up.
Definitely. I think we were talking before the session started. I think this day and age, with all the innovation that has come in, has become a great equalizer. What I mean is that a smart individual sitting in Lahore or Karachi with a fast internet, with a powerful computer, like, you need to have compute and a smart brain, is the same as sitting in anywhere, like in San Diego, in San Jose, or even in Europe somewhere. It's an equalizer. So you have everything in cloud. All the tools are in cloud as SaaS services. You can build anything from anywhere. So that is, I think it's amazing, because that will enable, as we look forward the next 20, 30 years, with AI especially, again, coming in, we'll talk about it, but it's just amazing. So startups can be anywhere. And in some cases, you might have US-based company, but majority of the work is being done in some other country like Pakistan, India, or in other places in Europe. So I think to your point about that, definitely we have a thing called in the TechCon we will have called Playground. It will have startup innovation pitching event. So we will select 8 startups to pitch. So it's anybody can apply on that website, and you will go through the selection process criteria. As long as you meet that, the location is no more material in this day and age, frankly. And I think COVID also taught us that. So I myself, like in my life, I have built teams in Pakistan, in India, in Bosnia, in Ukraine, Poland, right? So it doesn't matter if you have the right culture and you have the right tooling around it. Geo-distributed teams can be an asset, because then you become 24/7 organization rather than 8 hours. So definitely more than happy if anyone is more than happy to apply. And if you are able to be in San Diego, more than happy. Please ping me. I will more than happy to accommodate you.
Sure. We'll share your LinkedIn profile as well with this podcast, so people can contact you on LinkedIn. So जो आपकी बात से मुझे ये अंदाज़ा हुआ, बड़ी अच्छी आपने बात की. इट्स बेसिकली डिजिटल विलेज जिसे आजकल कहेंगे हम लोग, कि व्हेन इट कम्स टू अपॉर्चुनिटीज़, हमारे बहुत ज़्यादा रोना रोया जाता है कि अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ हमें तो मौके नहीं मिले, हमें मौके नहीं मिले, वी आर बेस्ड इन पाकिस्तान, इसलिए हम कुछ कर नहीं सके. सो जैसे फैसल भाई ने भी बात की, फैसल भाई आपने, कि it doesn't matter now okay, where you are sitting. You have access to the same tools, the same tech, the same features that are available to anybody sitting who is an MIT graduate or who's sitting in Silicon Valley, any startup. So बात वही है कि, और फिर जहाँ पे लर्निंग की बात करें, तो अब तो ऑनलाइन कोर्सेरा में आपके पास हार्वर्ड की और MIT की सर्टिफिकेशंस मौजूद हैं. तो आई मीन यू कांट ब्लेम दिस कि मुझे मौका नहीं मिल रहा, अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ के मौके की कमी है. सो इट्स बेसिकली अ रियल कनेक्टेड वर्ल्ड, और एंड स्काई इज़ द लिमिट. सो स्टार्टअप के अंदर यही जो मैं बात कर रहा हूँ फैसल भाई, इसमें सबसे पहले तो बात आ जाती है कि अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ को स्पॉट करना फॉर योर स्टार्टअप आइडिया. तो सबसे बड़ा ऑब्वियसली एक बेस लाइन जहाँ से चीज़ स्टार्ट होती है, उसका एक आगाज़ होता है, वो दैट इज़ बेसिकली स्पॉटिंग द राइट अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ इन द मार्केट. So when you actually are evaluating a startup, so what factors do you consider when evaluating the viability of a startup concept?
Great question. Great question. So I think if you look at what are the ingredients of a startup, right? So idea, the genesis of an idea is the first step. And that also I'll touch upon that it depends on where it comes from, right? If B2C and B2B, there might be different nuances which I'll touch upon. So idea is one. If you say what are the building blocks of a team, right? So idea, team is the next one. I think after idea, I think sometimes team comes first also, because if you can put together a smart team, you can iterate over ideas. So I'll say team first, then obviously idea, that you have to ground on one solid idea after diligence. And then you have to understand the market, the product market fit, and then the execution. I think those are the elements that you go about. So first of all, I'll touch upon the team, right? So when somebody comes to me or any of our team members for getting guidance or raising money or sharing their perspective on what they are doing in terms of a startup, the first thing would be the team. So the team means that the key founders, preferably most of the investors prefer co-founders. So it's not one person, but at least two or more.
Yeah.
And complementary co-founders, right? So one can be a quantitative guy who's a builder, and then the other guy is a seller, right? And they with the magic combination, right? So one builds and sell. Then that would be the great combination. So that's one part, how long they've worked together. So it's like a marriage, right? So you have to see if they just met yesterday. So then the problem is that they have not gone through that relationship and knowing each other and understanding each other's skills and those aspects, right? So those things are important in terms of team. What I will say is that most of the time, people who have previously worked together and they come together, and they might not be say they are in the same organization in different roles, they have good chemistry, and they leave that organization and then they've come together. That's a very good plausible team, right? Or they have already done together and then they do it again. That's, I'll say, the magic. If they have already successfully done something, then your credibility and everything is there. The second thing is idea. So idea, if you are in a B2C, or you're building a consumer product, a lot of times the idea comes from your own experiences and other aspects. And if you are in B2B, the best preferred idea is that you are in that domain and you find a pain point, right? You find that this thing is broken there, and you say this can be fixed. That is that is a much solid and plausible convincing story when you're raising money that I've been in this domain. Say you are in supply chain and you find that this is not very efficient, and by doing in this different way, so that means that you are domain expert, you understand the pain points, and you are trying to solve a problem. So that's one thing. The next step would be whether you have a customer or not. One of the most successful companies that had no issue raising money are ones that have already found a product market fit, even if they have not started building a product. So they already have customers that they can talk to, and they say, if you have this thing, I will buy it tomorrow. So that means that they already have, and sometimes they become the investors also, those customers. So that having a product market fit is the most important aspect that you can ever do about when you're doing it, right? And then the last point is idea. I think it's all about execution, right? How do you build? How do you scale? How do you sell? How do you find customers? How do you build a culture in your team? So that to me is where it differentiates, because a lot of people come up with ideas and then it doesn't go all the way, because that discipline, that journey, that struggle of building things, and that this execution is most important. And also there are different aspects of execution when you are raising, say, a couple of $1 million, and so then you're building something. You're thinking like, if I had 10,000 customer users, it will be great. But then same problem 5 years later, you'll be thinking, if I have 100 million users, how do I scale? So the problem statement changes. That's why in a lot of companies you might see that the CEOs, very few CEOs, founders, which I believe it should be the case, that they should continue. But in some cases, they realize that they can take it to 10 million, but then beyond that revenue, it's a different skill set that they bring in, a more mature, established CEO. So that's again a different story. But to your question about the building blocks: team, idea, product market fit, and execution. Yeah.
परफेक्ट सो ब्यूटीफुल फैसल भाई. मुझे अगला सवाल ये पूछना था कि हम लोग बात कर रहे थे कि मौके की कमी नहीं है अब तो डू यू हैव एनी एग्जांपल्स ऑफ सच पाकिस्तानी स्टार्टअप्स जो आपने इनको ग्रो होते हुए देखा और सिलिकॉन वैली में आके उनको छाते हुए देखा? तो ऐसी कोई एग्जांपल्स इफ यू कुड गो, दैट वुड बी ग्रेट. गुड मोटिवेशनल फैक्टर.
Yeah, so I think great question. So I think I wanted to first step back. I think आपने थोड़ी देर पहले एक comment कहा था कि which I have mentioned that the technology, internet, AI, all these are great equalizers, right? So personally, मेरा experience भी ये है कि if you just look at my journey, 30 years ago, NAD, हमारे पास books भी नहीं होती थी. McGraw-Hill की books, we used to take, they were so expensive, we have to take borrow it from the book bank.
Pirated वाला चक्कर था उस वक्त?
नहीं, book bank से they used to rent it for a year. So what I'm saying is, coming from that aspect, when I went to Purdue, which is at that time was a top 5 rated school in graduate degrees in US in engineering, मुझे कहीं फील नहीं हुआ कि मैं थर्ड वर्ल्ड कंट्री से आ रहा हूँ, या मैं मेरे इंस्टीट्यूशन में लैब्स 3-4 लैब्स थी एंड लिमिट. अब माशाल्लाह वी हैव कम अ लॉन्ग वे, द इंस्टीट्यूशंस हैव इवॉल्व, बट वी कम्पीटेड एट द लेवल. मेरे क्लास फेलोज, जो मेरे बहुत अच्छे फ्रेंड्स भी हैं, they have built companies, sold companies, hundreds of millions of dollars. Some of them are top level positions at multi-billion dollar company. So it's what I'm trying to get to is that that's just my generation, and then with your generation and the generation coming after you, they have even more opportunities, because everything is at fingertips, right? Which I mentioned, you need to be smart, you need to be passionate, you need to be driven, but then what you need is just connection, compute, and everything is available irrespective of your geolocation where you are. So as far as your question about Pakistani startups, so there are a lot of examples of companies that have done very well, which were incubated, or they were founded in US, and majority of their, I'll say, actual work was in Pakistan, right? So most of their team was in Pakistan. So those things are very common. I'm hoping that we have really good I won't name names, because then you have to, if you forget some, didn't mention one, then they might, But there are really good startups that are coming in. They have raised money. They are trying to do it. But I will say that first they have to prove their model in Pakistan, scale up, and then there will be opportunities to come to other countries, right? So also it's very important that you need the hyper scaling concept, right, where you want to go fast, fast, fast. It works, but I will say it most of the time it will burn a lot of money if you're trying to scale too fast and too soon. So
Yeah.
define your milestones, that what are your checkpoints in your journey of your startup.
Hmm.
And when you reach that checkpoint, then you definitely say, this is a time to scale up and this is a time to do that. So again, my point was more about that. Don't underestimate your capabilities. कि ये नहीं हो सकता, हमारे पास ये नहीं है. As long as you have the basic ingredients, which are very simple, I think you can make an impact. It's all about the startup ideas I mentioned, right? The concept, the experiences, the team, and then the grind, which is the actual execution.
Correct.
Startups का ये होता है कि you hear stories that are successes, which are, I'll say 0.002% of ones that are like 99.98% are not successful. And those are the ones that are, I will say, more learning, that people sometimes, and then they try again, and then, so never giving up attitude. So these are the basic things, but I feel that there is no lack of opportunity. Capital is a little challenging, and those are a function of the socioeconomic, the macroeconomic factors, the local factors of the country, I think, which evolves over time also. But I will say that for younger generation, you just think of, you are playing in a global world, a global village. Don't think you are in Pakistan or you're handicapped in any way. That perception, I will say, is not accurate. You can make a big impact. It might take longer, it might be a little harder, but just having that self-belief, and then and just showing that commitment and be on it. There's no shortcut that I will do this in 6 months, I will be, just keep doing it, have passionate about it, and learn from every failure and every success also,
Yeah.
and then try to be better. Yeah.
करेक्ट. सो फैसल भाई, अगला सवाल मेरा ये था, एजिलिटी के हिसाब से, या आपने जैसे ग्राइंडिंग की बात की या एग्जीक्यूशन की बात की, तो एग्जीक्यूशन के अंदर भी बहुत सारी अप्रोचेज हैं. कुछ लोग बहुत ही रिजिड होते हैं और एक प्रॉपर, एक जैसे कहते हैं ना, एक लकीर लगा ली, उसके ऊपर चलना है, भाई ये 6 मंथ्स में ये अचीव करना है, उसके बाद 1 साल में ये अचीव करना है. सो देयर इज़ नो एजिलिटी. तो हाउ टू अप्रोच एजिलिटी इन प्रोडक्ट डेवलपमेंट एंड आइटरेशन?
Yeah, I think that's a great point and a great question. I will say that having a plan, having a roadmap, where you're going, what your goals are, defining clear milestones and goals, I think is very important first, right? So that shows you that where you're going. So first, say when you're driving and you're going from point A to point B, your eventual goal is to get to point B, right? Now, that has to be clear, that where you want to be, right? You're not going to C or D, you're going to point B, right?
Yeah.
Now, what happens is that in a startup, and in any company, but especially in startups, the number of unknowns far outpace the number of knowns. There are assumptions, there are expectations that you are having, that if A happens, then this will happen. If I raise this money, but there's no guarantees, right? You'll go step by step, right? So what you need to do is you need to be flexible. So first of all, having a goal, having clear milestone, holding yourself accountable to those KPIs is important. But then what you need to do is you need to be flexible enough to, if there's a fork in the road, like say you're going to point B and the road is closed, you'll say, I'll just stand here until the road is built, I will not go. You won't do that. You'll take a right, you'll take a left, right? That's the agility. You'll find a way around it, right? That's what you need to do in life, that you need to be open to agile, learn, quickly adapt, but don't change your goal. Sometimes you do, like sometimes you realize that the goal you set, the B, you realize after all this diligence that the financial model didn't work, or your assumptions all fell apart. Then you should be at a macro level, say that I will gonna iterate to that's not agility, that's not directional change, that instead of doing this, I'm gonna do a different product. And a lot of companies do that and succeed, but that's a bigger change in your direction. But agility, learning and adapting, because say you're building your first version 0.1 MVP, and you have a customer, you assume based on your conversations what the customer, assuming it's a B2B, right? Not a consumer, that what they would need. You build, you give it to them, they try it out, trial, and say, no, these are the 30 things you do. This is completely broken. These are completely wrong. You say, okay, you learn from it. You'll take that feedback, and then based on your judgment, you'll make the appropriate modifications and then iterate again, right? So that part is then, and then also when you have a milestone, say 6 months you wanted to achieve something and you don't, then you have to do an analysis that what will you change, what will you adjust to achieve that. But directional change means like you say you're going to Sadr and you say I want to now go to, I'm giving Karachi example, like Tariq Road, and then you say no, I'm going to Hyderabad, right? That means then you will not end up anywhere. Set your goal and then be agile to how to get to that goal. And if your goal based on data and analysis down the journey feels that it needs to be adjusted, then you adjust, but don't just change your goals, otherwise you will not go anywhere.
Correct. So फैसल भाई, फंडिंग के ऊपर आते हैं. स्टार्टअप्स यूजुअली आजकल के बनते ही ऐसे हैं, उनका गोल ये होता है कि जी फंडिंग सिक्योर करनी है. क्योंकि आप गोल की बात कर रहे थे ना, रोड मैप्स की और गोल्स की, तो आई वुड से देयर आर लॉट्स एंड लॉट्स ऑफ स्टार्टअप्स जो कि उनका गोल ये होता है कि फंडिंग, वीसी फंडिंग सीख करनी है. सो पहला सवाल तो ये था कि इज दैट रियली अ गोल, और दूसरा फिर ये था कि व्हाट एडवाइस डू यू हैव फॉर स्टार्टअप्स दैट आर सीकिंग फंडिंग, एंड उसके लिए स्ट्रैटेजीज जो है वो आपने कौन सी ऐसी पाई जो कि मोस्ट इफेक्टिव हैं सिक्योर करने के लिए फंडिंग को?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think the way you should think about is that funding, whether it's early stage, seed, series A, it's a means to an end. It's not an end, right? What I'm saying is it's a help or a means that you are getting to get to your end goal. End goal is building successful product, getting customer, generating revenue, getting the growth that you're looking at, and then having some kind of an exit eventually, going public or acquisition, right? That's the goal. So I think unfortunately I've noticed that it's become a more symbol of success that I raise so much money, which is nothing. I'm not against it. What I'm saying is that, but it again, it doesn't, except apart from few big examples, it's more about if you raise a lot of money, what it means is that your eventual goal is becoming bigger and bigger, right? When somebody invests, he is looking for a return. So if that investment is humongous, then what it means is that your return that you need to give to that individual or investor or a group of investors, your goal has to be much harder. And so that's one part. So again, the point is that if you need the money, and that has to be based on your plan, like why do you need the money, what are you scaling, are you scaling your development, manufacturing, customer service, sales channels, and there should be a well thought out plan around it, why you need, what's your burn rate, how you're thinking about it. But it's not end, because at the end would be a success where you build products, generate revenue, and if you have an exit, that will be the return to the investors, that will be a return to the shareholders, that will be return to your employees also if they are stakeholders in the company, right? So first of all, take this as a intermediate step towards the journey. The second part would be how much you raise is based on your needs, based on you define your needs, and your the market you're playing in, the team, the hype around it. Sometimes that plays most of the time that plays a big role. So understanding that is important, and making sure that you know how you're going to use the money. Sometimes there are good strategies also. In one of the companies, we raised money because we knew there was a slowdown coming in, right? So that helped us go through that financial slowdown of 2008, right? So as long as there's a well thought out plan around it, and then use it wisely, right? When you raise money, use it wisely, because it should be towards the goal that you set for, right? Whatever factor of the or function that you want to scale, or overall you want to bring in talent, you want to scale up manufacturing, whatever that might be, you have to do that. And that's important. So again, money is difficult, and it's a cycle, right? So few years back, money was cheap. People were raising money was very easy, 2001, post COVID. Now money is hard to raise. So now you should be able to do a lot more with less. And also it depends on how much you need also, right? If you're building an app, for example, and I'm just giving a very simple example, like you're building an iOS Android app, very simple app, and you say I want to raise $10 million. The question would be, really, you can build that in 200K or maybe 500K. So why do you need that much money, right? So again, make sure that you have a plan. Your core founding team, your core team, hash it out with your advisor, whoever you have on your board, and then raise money if it helps you scale to the next milestone. But it's not a symbol of success, because you can raise a lot of money and go down under, means you burnt a lot of people's money. It's not a great accomplishment, but you can raise moderate amount of money and have a great exit. That's a success to me. So from my vantage point, I look at companies that achieve their goals as successful. Raising money is a point along the way, which should be you should feel good about it, but it's not the end goal. So I hope I'm making sense, because होता है ये कि status symbol बन गया है ये कितनी money raise किया, which is okay. Yeah, I think it's all over the world. Yeah. But it's not, again, I'm not against it. I'm just saying that just make sure that it's for the right reasons. Yeah.
So Faisal bhai, there are lots and lots of startups जिन्होंने bootstrap किया और उसके बाद unicorn startups बन गए. So how do you weigh the pros and cons of bootstrapping versus seeking external investment? So कौन सी appropriate approach होगी और क्या pros and cons होंगे उसके?
Yeah. That's a great question. I mean, if you look at a macro perspective, a couple of startups that are a good example of who did this. One is Atlassian. One is Qualtrics. I mean, they built humongous, large organizations, really successful, by no institutional money, or almost no. They did it later on. Just for closer to the exit, when they have an exit or going public. So there are examples, but I will say it depends on the area and your focus of your startup, like how much capital intensive it is. Because if you have you're building a startup that requires capital, and you're not raising it, and you're doing bootstrap, what it means is that you will go slow. You'll go very slow. And in this day and age, somebody else will be way ahead of you in a jiffy, right? So it's a race, right? So if you are slow, somebody else will go ahead of you. So, but if you are in your product, you're building a solution that requires minimal capital, right? Maybe you can go bootstrap longer. There's an advantage, because the later you raise money, the less company you'll give away to the investors. So that's the positive side of it, right? So you'll keep more. You don't want to be a startup that goes through Series A, B, C, D, E, and go to acquired by from billions of dollars, and the founder has 2% of the company or even less, right? That has happened. So that's one side. So one of the reasons that Bill Gates and others have so much wealth, and Bezos, is that they kept sizable portion of their company through multiple rounds, right? So that's one part. On the flip side is that you don't want to go slow also, right? So you don't want to be losing out opportunities because you didn't have the capital or the money to move fast. So that's a balancing act, I think, when and what. That's why the journey, the milestone I mentioned earlier of your startups are important. There are points that you define along the way, so that you say you have a goal to reach point A in say 1 year. And if you bootstrap, it will take you 3 years, then it will become a lifestyle business, because there will be other competitors who will gain all the market and you will lose it, right? So raising money for one is you give away company, but there's a positive side of it. So when you're bootstrapping, you don't have a board typically. You have some advisors. You are your own boss, and you can go slow. You can make decisions. But when you raise institutional money, you have a board and you are accountable to the board, and those are people who invest in large number of companies. They understand the landscape, they know what are the milestone, when it should be. So there's you have somebody on your back
Yeah.
guiding you, helping you, but also keeping you on the path to make sure you stay on track. To me,
Correct.
that's a big positive. That brings a discipline and maturity of people that are most of those VCs are either ex operating leaders or people who've been doing for a long time. They understand what each milestone mean, and when you miss something, what are the consequences. So I'll say there are, again, decisions are not black and white in life, right? So you have to balance out the pros and the cons.
Right.
And I will say make your judgment based on your team, your technology, your target market, your goals and milestones, and make the appropriate decision. I'm not saying one thing is bad or bootstrapping is bad or bootstrapping is the only solution. No, it's somewhere in the middle. When to raise, how much to raise, why you're raising. So make sure that fundraising itself is a well thought out plan. It's not something that, oh, my friend raised it, I'm going to raise it too because I'm going to get press, right? So yeah, but I think I will not discount the benefit of having institutional investors on your board, having a board, having yourself accountable, and that diligence and that thoroughness that comes with it. But also you're giving away company. So I mean, so each entrepreneur makes their decision with the founding team, the right decisions. Yeah.
Zabardast. That's a beautiful answer. So फैसल भाई अब आगे चलते हैं हम लोग बात करते हैं फंडिंग की हम बात कर रहे हैं तो उसमें ऑब्वियसली जो एक बहुत इम्पॉर्टेंट इंस्ट्रूमेंट होता है दैट इज़ बेसिकली योर फंडिंग पिच डेक सो उसके अंदर कौन से ऐसे की एलिमेंट्स हैं जो आपको लगता है कि इन्वेस्टर्स आर मोस्ट इंटरेस्टेड इन
Yeah. That's a very good question. So there are a lot of good. This is if there are entrepreneurs who want to build their pitch deck. There are a lot of examples out there. So 10 slides and how there are different philosophies. Again, you'll find all kind of opinions from different investors. I will say review them and make sure that your pitch deck follow that. But typically, what you need to touch upon the problem you're solving, how you're solving. The market, the TAM, SAM, the team, right? So I go to a lot of pitch events. I think last 3 weeks ago we were at, and there were really good feedback and a couple of really great presentation, but they did not cover their team. And then the investors mentioned you did not even mention your team, and especially when you have something that's very domain specific, right? When you have very niche area you're doing, and you don't mention, so you say I'm building the next generation LLMs, large language model, and you don't. Somebody will ask you, okay, what gave you that credibility that you can build one, right? When you say, oh, I have this guy who was the chief scientist at OpenAI, he's my co-founder. Suddenly investor will say, okay, now you're talking about something, right? So the team. So I think that's where a team is important. As I mentioned, not just the founders. I mean, if you have a good team that you have assembled, advisors, highlight them. So again, the problem you're solving, how you're solving, why you're the best person to solve the problem, how big is the problem, right? How big is the problem? And then obviously you will have those standard metrics of your financial forecast. So that, I mean, I will recommend having them. Different investors have different theses. I know I can build an Excel model in revenue, and I can grow from 0 to 100 million in 5 years, very easy. Like, you can have those multipliers and some factors and some KPIs and percentages, and you can show that. I think it's more for, again, as I mentioned, having that ambition and the journey and the destination, that this is where you want to be. How much of that 100 million will be a reality will be become on the intermediate milestone, right? That you will achieve. So make sure that you touch on the basis, and then know your investor, right? When you're pitching, a lot of information is available. Do your research.
Do your research.
Understand what they invest in, what are the questions they have seen. So most of those investors go to these conferences and they share their thought process, their thesis. If you can find that, listen to it, do your homework, and then come prepared. What I'm saying is, don't be completely unprepared. So, but make sure you touch upon these things. Make sure it's a professionally done deck. Make sure there are no spelling mistakes. So that can be a really disaster, right? You're pitching, it means you make sure you've done your homework. There's no grammatical errors, and those things are we don't take sometimes seriously. That we are so smart. I mean, this is just English, right? No, the whole package has to be solid. The impression has to be wow, right? So that has to be there. And think through all the questions, right? So if somebody asks you, like say somebody pitches and say, I want to raise 2 million. Great. First question would be, how are you going to use that 2 million? And if you cannot answer it, like just, this is how I'm going to do, this is my plan, this is how I'm going to allocate the funds, it will take me to this milestone. Simple answer, right? But if you can't answer that, that means you haven't not even thought through what you're going to. So that to me is not a good sign.
Correct. Perfect. So फैसल भाई आगे चलते हैं. लेट्स से कि जी प्रोडक्ट मार्केट फिट भी आ गया, स्टार्टअप लॉन्च हुआ, प्रोडक्ट मार्केट फिट हुआ, उसके बाद फंडिंग भी सिक्योर हो गई और एकदम से मैसिव ग्रोथ आना शुरू हो गई. बहुत सारे ऐसे स्टार्टअप्स हम लोगों ने देखे जो ग्रोथ स्टेज में फेल हो जाते हैं क्योंकि उनसे ग्रोथ हैंडल नहीं होती. सो उसको कैसे हैंडल किया जाए? व्हाट्स योर एडवाइस ऑन दैट?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a good problem to have, first of all, right? So I mean, you can have different problems. So you're saying that you've gone through all those problems, so now you have a bigger problem, which is a good problem to have. Scaling, right? So scaling again, you have to think about what you are scaling, right? So for example, say you have a platform that you build, right? So that platform is need to be scaled, right? You thought about customers and now you're getting so many customers, your platform need to be re-architected because at that time all the technical decisions were done with a short-term mindset, right? That's fine. So I think one thing would be you need to definitely have expertise in your team that can go through the different life cycles of the startup, right? Incubation, baselining, scaling, or you can bring expertise at that point, people who have done it to augment your team that can help you. Others can be a sales scaling, that you are trying to scale on sales, different geos, different industries. Again, you have to see whether you have organically, you have that skill set. There's nothing harm about bringing talent in, right? So you can bring talent in that help you scale and it's a very you should be open with that. Even CEOs sometimes, I'm just being transparent, that you realize that I took a company to $2 million, $2.5 million. Now we want to go to 50 million and beyond. I don't think I can do that. I'm a very deep, narrow person. I like to stay there. And this is not my expertise, right? You should be very gracious enough to say, I'll bring a CEO that can run the company. You can be the chairman. And so that's also possible. So again, depending on what the scaling bottleneck is it a platform? Is it the sales? Is it the customer? Is it the, markets, and you're going to go different regions. And so each problem can be solved by having the right talent. Either organically, you have the talent that can step up, or you can augment your team to bring that talent in. I'm assuming when we are scaling, capital should not be a problem, right? Those problems have been solved. So then I think those things can be done. And I think the key would be not being afraid to have people smarter than you in your team. I mean, that's a difficult question, not a question, but a difficult aspect that a lot of people struggle with. If you hire people who are average, your team, your whole organization will be average. the best is hiring people smarter than you, because nobody knows everything. So you cannot be the best of sales, best of R&D,
Yeah.
best of, right? You should find the best
You need to be
talent.
wiser than all. Yeah.
Yeah,
They are
you
smarter
should
than you,
be
but you are wiser than them.
wiser than. Yeah, the decision making is where you come. The vision, the decision making, the judgment calls. That's where you come in, right? If you are the founder, and right, but the right questions you can ask, and probe. That, I think, that you should do. But you cannot say that I'll be the best salesperson and I'm the CSO and I'm the
Yeah.
CTO and I'm the, so bring smart people in and
And
empower
delegate.
them, build, yeah, delegate, empower them, and the best thing you should do is that you should have a culture where there's a mission, that people don't think of it as a job, that, oh, I have to come clock my hours, and it's a mission. They feel passionate about it. They feel like this is my company. I'm going to run with it. Empower them and hold them accountable. So if you
Yeah.
build that, I think then you can solve the scaling problem. When you start scaling, you start burning a lot of money also. So make sure when you're scaling, your CFO is on board with you with the financial plan, that if you're burning in, so your burn rate was X, now it will become 4X. It means you will need more capital when,
Yeah.
and what will be those checkpoints, how many customers, how many sales, then you have to do that. So having that understanding is important, and then you have a well thought out plan to scale. And I've been part of companies more on the scaling the technology, and because some of the platforms, when they were built, 10,000 was a great milestone, and then when 10 million was small. So that happens, and which is a good problem to have, I think. And but just go through it, bring good talent in, and go through that. Yeah.
Great, फैसल भाई. So my last question is कि आपके पास स्टार्टअप के पास लेट्स से स्टार्टअप का आइडिएशन भी हो गई, उसके बाद फिर प्रोडक्ट मार्केट फिट भी आ गया, फंडिंग, इनिशियल सीड फंडिंग, सीरीज ए फंडिंग भी सिक्योर हो गई. अब जो है वो अगला चैलेंज ये है, और ग्रोथ को भी हैंडल कर लिया माशाल्लाह. अब अगला चैलेंज ये है कि जी नाउ दे वांट टू एक्सपैंड बियॉन्ड बॉर्डर्स. लेट्स से पाकिस्तानी स्टार्टअप है, नाउ दे वांट टू एक्सपैंड इन यूएसए और लेट्स से इन यूरोप. So, what considerations and strategies should be prioritized when planning international expansion?
Yeah. So I think I'm assuming again that they are expanding more for customers, and business opportunities, right? So I
Yeah,
think development wise, if you're doing in Pakistan, I think that's the best, most cost effective way to do it. You might uh, expand in US also to bring higher, local time zone, higher quality talent, but for customers, and also there are examples, right? So there are examples, European companies coming to US, right, for sales. So you have to, if you feel that you will build, I'll say 90% of the product or offering a solution that you have in Pakistan, but majority of the customers will be outside Pakistan, because those are bigger markets. I mean, it's the right thing to do. Pakistan is
yeah,
a smaller market in terms of GDP, in terms of total TAM and SAM, right? So
yeah,
what you can do is you can build your sales organization in US. You can use, your VP of sales, your even your CFO can be here if you want your financial. You want to be a US company, maybe Delaware-based company that has the core business functions in US, and all the that might be a great opportunity, because people feel more comfortable that they're interacting with a US company, right? So it's a US
yeah,
incorporation with their, at least the top sales, the top business functions in US, with the all the technology. I mean, that might be a great. Then you can go after those customers and your contracts, and when you are doing your financial reporting, you need to make sure that you are reporting as per these standards, so that whatever your eventual next step would be. So if you reach that point that you're thinking, first you have to think, why are you going to US? Most probably the answer would be to target US customers.
yeah,
I think then my recommendation would be to change the company into a US organization with the business functions in the US, at least the key top one or two roles. Sometimes I've seen, not for Pakistani companies, but for European companies, that they start in Eastern Europe somewhere, or Western Europe, and then they set up the business functions here, and then obviously because they want to target US as a bigger market and go after the customer. Then eventually the founder also comes here, spends half the time here or most of the time to build those relationships. While 95% of the work, actual work, is being done in somewhere else, right? So that I think that's a win-win because the revenue is in dollars and the expense are in rupees. So I think that will be a good approach. As long as your offering is I think it's also I'm thinking product, right? If it's a services company, again it's a no-brainer because I mean services is a magnitude more cost effective in Pakistan
Yeah.
than US, right? So again, it's a solution. You have to think through it, but there are advantages. Then you will obviously, if you're invest, a lot of investors only invest in US organizations. So even if you are an amazing Pakistani company, most of the investors will not invest because unless you're incorporated in Delaware or you're a US, just out because of the um, kind of like a safety of the investments perspective and the rights of the investors and all that. So yeah.
Yeah. That's great, फैसल भाई. Thank you so much for all the beautiful insights और ज़बरदस्त किस्म की learnings हुई हैं. I'm very hopeful कि हमारी जो audience है उसकी वाकई बहुत ज़्यादा आंखें खुली होंगी और काफ़ी काफ़ी सारा कुछ उनको नया सीखने को मिला होगा आपके माशाल्लाह 30 years के सिलिकॉन वैली के experience से entrepreneurship के. So any final message you want to give to the audience?
I think thank you so much for the opportunity, Omar. Really enjoyed. I hope people will find this beneficial. I am more than happy to if there are entrepreneurs who are looking for any guidance and help. More than happy if you can, they can reach out to me. And hopefully, I think I'm very optimistic on Pakistan. Inshallah, I think there are a lot of smart young the next generation. They have a lot of potential, really smart people. I'm hoping that they will continue to make an impact in the country as well as in the world. And
Inshallah.
inshallah, I think let's hope for the brighter future. Yeah.
Great. So that's all. Faisal bhai, thank you very much once again for joining and taking out the time out of your busy schedule. So happy Ramzan to you, and inshallah, very soon we'll meet again.
Inshallah. And Ramadan
Take
Mubarak.
care.
Allah Hafiz. Great talking. Bye.
Allah Hafiz. Bye bye.